Coming to you from the Deep South, this is the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast. High-impact leadership is not reserved for leaders, and it has nothing to do with your position, title, or rank. However, it does have everything to do with your character. It's time to climb to the next level and beyond, personally and professionally. Now, let's start making it happen with your host, Mack Story.
We're going to talk about bullies in the workplace here in a minute, but before I do that, I just want to give a shout out to Alan Bell and his team at Site and Utility. Rhea and I were there last Friday, October the 25th, down in Pensacola, Florida. We actually stayed at Pensacola Beach from Tuesday to Saturday. We spoke to them from Friday, noon Friday till 4 p.m. Friday afternoon. What was awesome about that group is Alan actually, he went above and beyond. Instead of doing our special offer and getting 300 books for us to speak for 2 hours, he went ahead and got 500 books and had us speak for 4 hours. So he got his team 500 books, but he didn't bring the books with him to the event. And we had an offsite event, so he rented a conference room at a hotel and had his leadership team and some of his clients, some general contractors and other folks attend our session. And Site and Utility, they do paving, they do site work, all types of construction work. You need to check them out. Look up Site and Utility, Site, S-I-T-E, and Utility in Pensacola, Florida. You can find them on Google, pretty easy. And you can learn about them if you were to be down in that area and curious about what they do. One thing I can tell you they're starting to do is become very intentional about developing their people. That's the only folks who have us come into an organization, and that's why we were there. And I got to tell you, we have people all over this country, leaders specifically, people I meet that tell me blue-collar folks don't want to read books. So let me tell you what, Alan didn't bring the books because he was going to wait until after we spoke and then talk to the team the following week and develop a plan for conducting book studies and pass out the books to the folks who were interested, that sort of thing. But these folks, there were a lot of them who were truly interested in the books that day, last Friday. So Alan had to go back to the office because we were done at 4. Everybody was free to start their weekend on Friday afternoon, so they didn't have to go back to the office. But he told them there were so many that wanted the books. They want to know, where's the books? And he said, hey, I'll go back to the office and those of you that want them, follow me over there. And he had some people follow him over there, and he had to hand out some books, which was a good problem to have. And what I made sure he do was those people were self-identifying that they were on board with the cultural transformation, that they wanted to be better people. And they wanted to help the organization be better and help their team members be better and hopefully help their family be better. So those people basically raised their hand and said, I'm on board. So that's what a leader always needs to know whenever they bring us in to speak, is those people who are hungry. That's the way I define those people. Those were a bunch of hungry folks who wanted those books right away. And one of the guys reached out. I'll shout out to him because it's a positive thing. And it was Mr. Connor. And Connor reached out the next day, told me he had already read the first 5 chapters of Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines. And he was watching podcasts on our YouTube channel, not the podcast, but the Real People Getting Real Results interviews. So he was diving in. That's what I call sponge mode. When somebody dives in like that, they're in sponge mode. And if Connor don't let off a gas, he's got an amazing future. And Alan is privileged to have him there. So just wanted to shout out to those fine folks down there. If you're in that area, you're in the construction industry, or maybe want to be, go check them out, especially if you follow my stuff. If you following my podcast, you read my books, you into this type of stuff, I guarantee you Alan and Al would like to talk to you if you're interested. I don't know if there'd be a fit, but I know he's interested in this high impact leadership development, and anybody who is, I'm pretty sure he'd like to talk to you and see who you are and what kind of competency you have related to what type of competency they need. And you just never know. And I'll tell any of you who listen to my podcast, when you hear me talk about clients, or if you watch the Real People Getting Real Results and you see folks who have I've interviewed, especially leaders of companies or owners of companies, and they're into this stuff and you're in their area, you need to check them out. Even if you don't want to work there, you need to get to know them. You need to network with them. Some of them are audio interviews on my podcast. Some are video interviews on my YouTube channel, on the Blue Collar Leadership YouTube channel. All right. That was just top of mind this morning as I'm recording this podcast. Rhea and I are actually getting ready to go to Waycross, Georgia. She's speaking at an event. I know there's some law enforcement folks there, but Rhea does a lot of work in the sex trafficking industry, and it's somehow related to that. I'm not really sure. I'm going over there to be a cheerleader and run the book table and process book sales if somebody were to want some. But she'll be speaking in Waycross, Georgia, October the 29th. I'm recording this on October 28th, so we're getting ready to head over there. It's been a busy 6 or 8 weeks for us. After that, things slow down a little bit, and then we head up November 21st. We'll be up in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, to speak to, I believe it's 7 plant managers and their respective HR managers in their facility for the one company, and then their top leaders will be there and going to speak for 2 hours. And I got tons of plant manager stories to tell them related to leadership. So it's going to be, I've never done an event where I could really talk about plant manager experiences that I've had from all different levels of my career. And I talk about them a lot in different books that I write, my books, different stories, and I'll put it in a slightly different context, but I'm really excited to go up to speak with these folks. And they're Southwark Metal, SOUTHWARK Metal, and they manufacture, I believe, HVAC metal and products. Hadn't done my research yet. I got a few weeks before we're going up there, so hadn't went through that yet to really learn about them too deep. I did in the past, but it's been a while ago now. I can't remember, but I'm excited to go up and speak with them in Philadelphia. So Rhea and I'll be up there soon. But anyway, let's talk about bullies in the workplace. Like I said, you need to improve them or remove them. And the thing about this is, it doesn't matter if you're the boss or you just work there. Either way, you can improve them or remove them. And sometimes it's a lot easier to remove them than it is to improve them, because a lot of them, they don't want to be improved. And if you're not the boss, it's going to take you a long time to improve them, because you just got to do it through your model, your example, and that sort of thing. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Sometimes bullies are bullies because that's what they want to be. It don't matter who you are and how you are. That's when you got to remove them. And again, if they don't report to you, you can't fire them and get them out of the company, but you can fire them and get yourself out of the company. What I mean is, you quit, go find you a better place to work with a better coworker or a better boss. And notice I said better boss. And the reason I'm saying that, most of the bullies that I encounter in the workplace, most often, they're the boss. Some of them, that's why they want to be the boss. They want to be the boss because they want the power and the control. That's what bullies want. A lot of people don't really refer to bullies in the workplace, but as being bad bosses, but usually bad bosses are bullies. And I've encountered a bunch of them throughout my career, and I still encounter a lot of them when Rhea and I are speaking. You'll see these folks, not you literally, but me and Rhea, anybody who's speaking about servant leadership and the high impact leadership type content that Rhea and I speak about. Whenever we're speaking to a room of people, especially smaller groups, where you actually can kind of make eye contact with everyone and you kind of see people's expressions and that sort of stuff. These bullies, they kind of self-identify in there. You can tell, because they don't like what we're talking about, because everything we're talking about is related to them giving up that power that they want so bad. Bullies don't want to give up power. They don't want to be servant leaders. That's why they're bullies. They value control. They value their authority. They value their power. So when an organization chooses to go down the path where they bring us in, especially if they've never had us in before, well, that's what's going to start happening. You're going to see the people who gravitate toward us. They have shared values. They value servant leadership. They value leading themselves well. They value respecting others, developing others, not leading with an iron fist. There's going to be that half of the crowd, or that side of the crowd, and then there's going to be the other side, and you never know what you're going to get. Some places are full of bullies. Some places have no bullies, and some have just a couple of bullies when we walk in the door. But they're usually the ones who are most resistant to the type stuff that Rhea and I talk about. The principles we share, they're resistant. They become resistant sometimes immediately in the room. They'll be rolling their eyes, crossing their arms, shaking their head, letting everybody around them know, I ain't buying into this, because they know what they've already tried to establish, meaning their dominance. So anybody around them knows who they are. And usually the people sitting with them quite often are like them. That's why, who we are is who we attract. Sometimes you'll have the bully table where you got the bully and another bully and some more bullies sitting around. It's just always different. You never know. But when it comes to bullies, you can either work for them, meaning they're the boss, or you work with them, meaning they're a team member at some level. They could be a peer of yours, work beside you all day, or they could be someone in a support role, not your boss, but they could be in sometimes you see the safety folks and the quality folks. A lot of times those positions kind of attract a bully mindset because they want to be in charge. Instead of wanting to help you work safer and help you produce more quality, they want to be the police. They want to find out who's doing something wrong relative to safety or quality, and then point you out and pull a Barney Fife on you. If you're familiar with Andy Griffith's show, and you got Andy, the sheriff, who doesn't lead with an iron fist, and then you got Barney Fife, who goes nuts all day trying to flex his muscle, his authority, his badge, as deputy sheriff, and he can't get anything accomplished. So a lot of times people like Barney are attracted to leadership positions. They're attracted to safety and quality positions. They like to be the police, point out everybody who's doing something wrong. Meanwhile, while they're doing that, they're literally doing something wrong. They don't know how to lead. But anyway, that's some of the people you could work with. So you could it could be any level of boss above you. You're working for them. Remember, you work with high impact leaders. You work for low impact leaders. And obviously any bully in a workplace is a low impact leader and a low impact team member. So if you're a boss, if you're a formal authority boss and you're not the bully, because bullies probably not listen to my podcast, so I assume you're probably not a bully. The only reason they would listen is try to learn what we are all up to. Kind of like covert operations. Some bullies might listen to this podcast, try to figure out, what's the other side doing? But if you're the boss and you're not a bully, you may be allowing bullies to work in your organization. And those bullies could be someone else's boss or just a team member, because you don't have to be the boss to be a bully. So there's some things you need to think about. If you're the boss and you're allowing a bully to be on your team, everybody knows that. Bullies, anybody who's listened to me enough have heard me talk about toxic people. Well, let me tell you this. You already know it. A bully is a highly toxic individual to your team, especially if they're a boss. Bully bosses, they create a lot of turnover. A lot of people come on their team and they hop right off that team because they got options. Unfortunately, everybody don't have options. I mean, they do, but they don't want to exercise them. Maybe they in debt up to their eyeballs and they can't afford to be out of work 2 weeks to find another job, or 2 months to find another job. So they have to keep following the bully. So they have to walk in every day choosing to be bullied. It's a choice. You don't have to go in every day. You can stay home, go find you another job, and deal with the consequences if you're not prepared. Or you can deal with the bully. I'll talk about this here in a minute, and get yourself prepared so you do have options. So if you're the boss, though, and you're allowing a bully to be on your team, they're highly toxic to the team and to you. They create a lot of turnover in your organization, as I just talked about. People don't want to work for them unless they have to. And if they have to, that probably means they're a little bit lower level of a team member. they even have lower character, because someone of high character is going to have options again, because they're going to have a lot of discipline. They're going to make sacrifices. They're going to do the work they have to do to leave, or they simply just not going to put up with it. They just going to leave and figure out how to deal with whatever issues that show up because they quit their job because of a bully. But if you're a boss inside your organization and you're allowing bullies to be in your organization, you, whoever you are losing trust. And I know there's some bosses who listen to me who are not bullies, but there's some of you have bullies on your team. You haven't developed yourself as a leader yet to either improve them or remove them, and they're still there. What you got to know is why they're there. You're losing trust. Your integrity is in jeopardy with your team, because the kind of boss who allows a bully to be on their team has some severe character issues. And even though you may be a great person in many categories, if you got a bully on your team and you're a bad leader in that category, you may still be a great person, but that's a bad leadership trait if you're allowing a bully to be on your team. And everybody can see it. Everybody knows it. Most often when there's a bully in a boss position, there's a bully in a boss position above them, and there's a bully in the boss position above them. Somewhere is just climbing the org chart. Bullies want bullies on their team. That's the kind of people they want to hire. They want to bully them too, but they also want them to bully the other people. The thing about having bullies on your team is that they repel high impact people. Someone could change departments, or they could move from one job to another, or they could get promoted and start reporting to someone new, or they could just get hired in and they're actually a high impact individual with a high degree of character, but somehow they end up under the bully, and then that bully repels them. What he's trying to do is to control them, but some people ain't going to be controlled. And you listen to one of them right now. There ain't no bullies out there going to control Mack Story. I promise you that. They're going to need to find out they need to leave me alone. If I was on their team back in the old days, they figure that out pretty quick, or they're going to get me out of the organization. I never got fired. So that tells you how bullies dealt with me. They learned that I was not somebody to be bullied. But there's a lot of people who don't have that type character. They allow themselves to be bullied. But I'm gonna tell you, they ain't a whole lot of infantry Marines gonna allow some goofball boss to bully them. Just ain't gonna happen. And that's the world I come from, and it ain't gonna happen. It didn't happen in the Marines either. There's bullies in leadership positions in the Marine Corps, in any military branch. But the bullying stuff never worked with me. And you don't need to let it work with you. And you don't have to do nothing crazy. Get yourself in trouble at work, which I kind of got myself in trouble, but never any real trouble at work. And I didn't do nothing stupid. I didn't shoot nobody, kill nobody, cut nobody, stab nobody. You ain't got to do none of that stuff to be effective, but you need to get yourself out of the situation. And again, I'm going to touch on that in a minute if you're in that situation. But when you got bullies repelling the high impact people, they're repelling the best. Guess who's left? The rest. And I want to give you a little leadership truth right here. If you've been working with and following a bully for any length of time, you're some of the rest. The best are leaving. If you're still there, why are you still there following the bully? That's just some leadership truth talk right there. Remember, leadership truth's kind of like a surgeon's scalpel. It might hurt, it might sting, but it's meant to help. I won't give you a wake-up call. If you're following a bully and you've been doing it for any length of time, why? The only reason that bully can have a job is because people choose to keep following the bully. If nobody would follow the bully, if everybody would quit, well, the bully wouldn't have a job very long. That's just that simple. So I just want to help you think about that clearly. If you following a bully, you're part of the problem, but you can quickly become part of the solution, especially to your life. But indirectly, when you quit, meaning fire the boss and leave and go work somewhere else, you're helping the people in the future, and even the people there, because turnover is an indicator that often is an indicator of there's a bully in a leadership position. Not always, but often. As a leader also, if you're allowing a bully on your team, you're communicating to everyone that's the minimum character that's acceptable. Whatever the character of that bully is, you're saying that's okay on your team. That's why the people on your team, their character is a reflection of your character if you're the boss. That's what you got to know. If you're not the boss, you got to look around, look at your team, the people who are allowed to stay there and work there, no matter how they are character-wise. If they're allowed to work there, that's a reflection of ultimately the top boss's character. They're co-signing that, hey, that behavior is okay. Treating people like that is okay. And you already know this at some level. I'm just putting it out there as I'm talking about bullies in the workplace. But if you're working somewhere and you have to work with a bully or for a bully, you got to develop some options. And the number one option is to fire that bully, meaning leave the department, go work in a different department for a boss that's not a bully, or leave the company altogether and work at a different company, or start your own business. Just by the nature of blue-collar work, I'm telling you, there are a lot of you out there that do blue-collar jobs that if you develop your character enough that you can go start your own company, you sacrifice enough and you develop enough discipline, you can launch your income to a crazy level. You already got the skills. Meaning, I meet people all over this country that got the skills to start their own business. They just ain't got the character to do it. If they had the character to do it, they would have already done it because they've already got the skills. So you got to develop your character. Most people don't need more competency to get a job somewhere else, or more competency to start their own business. Most people need more character. And if you need more competency and you ain't got it, that's a character issue. Everything is always a character issue. But if you start developing your character while you're there, it's going to help you be the better person, so that you don't have to do something stupid, so that you're able to create positive word of mouth from anybody who's watching you deal with a bully, with a bully boss especially. And as a consultant, I had to deal with bully bosses all the time. Some people be thinking, Mack, you don't know. Well, when I was a consultant, I had to deal with those bully bosses very positively, or I would got kicked out of all them consulting jobs I had. And that never happened. I learned how to deal with the bully bosses. And the way you do it, you let them have control. Don't fight it. I was in there to help people to improve processes. I worked around every bully boss I ever come across as a consultant. I just worked around them. I let them be who they were. I let everybody know I see what's going on. That's what I'd say usually. I say, y'all might think I don't know what's going on. I know. But we got a mission to accomplish. And all of you work here, which means you're dealing with it some kind of way. This week while I'm here, we're going to deal with it in a positive way. Whatever that means, I don't know. We're going to find out what the bully is up to this week, and we're going to work around it. And we made it happen week after week after week. In spite of the bullies, we got ridiculous results. So for yourself, if you're following a bully, you're listening to my podcast, obviously, if you heard those words. If you haven't read Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, get yourself that book. And I'm going to tell you another one to get. Ria's book, my wife Ria, The Ladder of Influence, 5 Steps for Climbing to the Next Level and Beyond. And I'd recommend you actually read that one first, because you'll have a big picture of what personal transformation looks like when you read that book. Then when you dive into the Front Lines book, you're going to see it's going to help you start. The first step in Ria's book is control of self, and then character development. And Blue Collar Leadership, Leading from the Front Lines, is going to help you with both of those things. It's going to help you with control of self, and it's going to help you with character development. 2 things going to help you climb the ladder of influence, because the more influence you have, the more options you're going to have. The more options you're going to have, the better your life's going to be. And I don't know how hard life for you might be at the moment, but I know if you're following a bully boss or working with a bully team member Or maybe you have a bully at home. Maybe it's just your spouse or your significant other. Whether it's male or female doesn't make any difference. Bullies come in all shapes and forms, both genders. Wherever you got one in your life, the key to escaping that, improving or removing, if you improve those folks or you remove those folks from your life, either way, your life's getting better. The key to that is personal development. You've got to develop yourself. You're listening to this podcast, you're already doing it to some degree. And I'll give you a tip. Go back to episode 65. I want you to get that book, Blue Collar Leadership Leading from the Front Lines. Make it a tool. Read it, highlight it, fold the pages. Go back and visit it months from now, years from now. Don't give it away. But you can listen to me do a 30-part podcast series if you haven't heard that. Episode 65 is where it starts. And I talk 20 or 30 minutes on each chapter. I can't stress it enough how much control you have over your future if you will develop yourself. And I'm going to tell you, if you're dealing with a bully, you probably listened pretty intently, because bullies in the workplace, they're not a good place to be working. You don't want to be there. And the only reason you are there is because you choose to be for some reason. And it could be you don't want to deal with the consequences of leaving, again, like I told you, but you got to develop options. You got to develop yourself in order to develop options. Bad bosses are usually nothing more than bullies in the workplace. And you can't blame them because you're working there. Leif Babin, I think's the way you say his name, former Navy SEAL. He's partnered up with Jocko Willink, author of Extreme Ownership. They wrote that book together, Jocko and Leif. But Leif says, when you blame others, you give up control. So don't blame the bully because you have to work for the bully and they choose to be a bully. If you do that, you're giving up control. Like, you don't have any control. You can't develop yourself and you can't fire the boss, is what you're saying. But you can. So don't blame a bully. If you got a bad boss, even if they're not a bully, but they're bad in some other way, don't blame them because you have to follow them. Look in the mirror and say, why do I choose to follow them? Don't give up your control. Also, bad bosses are really good at teaching us what not to do and how not to be. So don't miss all the valuable lessons they're constantly providing while you're following a bad boss for any reason, especially if they're a bully. They're teaching you what not to do and how not to be. And I'm going to tell you this, great bosses above do not tolerate bad bosses below. So if you got a bad boss, that's a high degree of I can't get the words out. That's a significant indicator of the poor character of the boss above. If you think you got a great boss 2 or 3 levels above, but you got a bad boss directly above, there's probably something about those couple of bosses up the org chart that you don't know about because they're allowing that to happen. And when it comes to building a high-performance team, character development is king. High-impact bosses are going to be improving or removing the bad bosses. And for you, no matter what level you're at, learning to lead means learning how to think like a leader. Until you think like a leader, you won't behave like a leader. And I'm talking about a high-impact leader. That's what you got to do, is develop yourself. That's why character development, individual and as a leader, matters so much. I'm going to wrap up today's session with this quote from Jim Rohn, R-O-H-N, Jim Rohn. He says, the challenge of leadership is to be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Be bold, but not a bully. Be thoughtful, but not lazy. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. Have humor, but without folly. That's some good stuff from Jim Rohn. Hope this was a thought-provoking episode for you. Bullies in the workplace, improve them or remove them. That is the mission. Talk to you next time.
Make it happen or someone else will. It might as well be you. Are you serious about taking your career and your life to the next level and beyond? Check out Mack Story's Blue Collar Leadership series books and others, now available on audio, along with paperback and ebooks at Amazon and Audible. Please visit bluecollarleadership.com to learn about Mack's books, programs, special offers, and more. Thank you for listening to the Blue Collar Leadership Podcast.